My phone buzzed at 2:17 a.m. I've been driving since sunset, doing the usual loops through the late-night streets, picking up the last drunks and the first bakers. The city was quiet in a tired way, traffic lights changing for no one. Shop signs humming, empty bus stops glowing under street lamps. The new request popped up on my rideshare app with no name attached. Not John or Sarah, just a blank line where the passenger name should be. The pickup pin sat on the edge of the old industrial district, the part of town where warehouses rot and nobody goes unless they have to. I should have declined. I hovered my thumb over the cancel button. My battery was low, my eyes were dry. And every driver knows the rule. If the app can't show a name, the trip is trouble. But the fare estimate was double what it should have been, and my rent was due. So I accepted. As I drove out of downtown, the streets thinned, then emptied. The streetlights grew farther apart. My headlights cut through pockets of fog that didn't belong there. The air smelled like wet concrete. The pickup point was a cracked sidewalk outside a chain-link fence. Behind it sat a warehouse with boarded windows and a loading bay that looked like a mouth. I stopped at the pin and waited. 30 seconds passed, then a minute. I was about to cancel when my rear passenger door opened. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't see someone approach in my mirrors. The door just opened, and then he was inside. The smell hit me first. Cold rain and something faintly metallic, like coins left in a cup of water. "Good evening," he said. His voice was calm, polite, adult, not slurred, not angry. I glanced at the rearview mirror. He was sitting behind me, centered, hands on his knees. Mid-40s, maybe. Clean jacket. No visible dirt on him, which didn't match the smell. His hair was dry, combed back. His eyes were open wide, fixed on the back of my head like he could see through it. "Hi," I said. "Where to?" He leaned forward slightly, just enough that I felt the shift of weight in the car. "To the cemetery," he said. "There are 2 cemeteries in my city. One is near a church, well lit, visited. The other is outside town, surrounded by trees, and the road there has no streetlights for miles." "Which one?" I asked. "The far one," he said. "And please don't stop until we arrive." His phrasing was strange. Not, "Can you take me?" or "I'm in a hurry." Just a request that felt like a rule. I forced a small laugh. "No problem." "That's pretty far out." He didn't react. I tapped Start Trip. The app chirped, but the screen didn't show his destination. It showed a spinning circle, as if it couldn't load the route. "You can just tell me the address," I said. "You know it," he replied. I didn't, but my hands turned the wheel anyway. That scared me. I told myself it was muscle memory. Maybe I'd driven there before. Maybe my brain filled in the gap. But the turns came too cleanly, too quickly. Left at the broken billboard. Right at the unmarked road. Straight through a set of lights that turned green just as I reached them, every time. In the mirror, his face stayed still. He didn't blink. I turned the radio on, searching for noise to fill the car. Static, not a little hiss. Full, thick static, like a blanket over the speakers. I switched stations. Same. I turned it off. The silence felt heavier. We crossed the river bridge, and my GPS went dark. No signal, not loading. Dark, like the screen had died. Then my phone, still in the mount, flickered and shut off. My dash clock blinked 12 o'clock. I swallowed. "Looks like my electronics are acting up." He smiled in the mirror, just the corners of his mouth. "They do that around here." "Around where?" I asked. He didn't answer. The road narrowed into a 2-lane stretch lined with trees. Fog thickened and pressed against the windshield. My headlights turned it into a white wall. The farther we drove, the more it felt like the city had been left behind entirely. I tried to check the app again. The screen was on now, but the trip timer was frozen at 0 o'clock. The fare estimate was gone. The passenger name was still blank. My skin prickled. "Sir, can you confirm your name for me?" The app, "You don't need my name," he said. Calm, still polite. "Just keep driving." My fingers tightened on the wheel. "I'm just making sure everything is correct." "It is," he said. "It's always correct." We passed an abandoned gas station. One pump light was on, flickering. A figure stood under the canopy. I stared. expecting the person to move or wave. It didn't. As I passed, my headlights swept over it, and I realized it wasn't a person. It was a road sign bent at an angle, its reflective surface catching the light like skin. My heart thumped hard, and for the first time, the man behind me spoke without me asking. "Don't look for company," he said. "You won't like what answers." I felt my mouth go dry. "What is this?" He leaned forward again. The air in the car turned colder, like a window had cracked open. "This is a ride," he said. "You accepted." The way he said accepted made it sound permanent. I tried to breathe normally. "You're going to the cemetery. Fine, we'll go. Then you'll get out." That's it. In the mirror, his eyes lifted slightly, as if he was studying my reflection, not my face. "That depends," he said. On the right side of the road, the trees opened briefly, and I saw the cemetery fence ahead in the distance. I felt relief so sharp it almost hurt. Headstones, a real place, a normal destination. But as we got closer, I noticed something wrong. The cemetery gate was open. It's never open at night. Not the far one. I'd driven past it before, and the gate had always been shut, chained, with a small sign warning about trespassing. Tonight it stood open like a mouth. I slowed instinctively. "Don't stop," he reminded me. My foot hovered over the brake anyway. The gate's open. "That's weird." His voice stayed calm. "It's open for me." A cold drop of sweat ran down my back. We rolled through the gate and onto a gravel road that crunched under my tires. Headstones appeared on both sides, small and pale in the fog. The trees here were taller, their branches tangled overhead like ribs. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to hit end trip, throw my phone out the window, and drive until sunrise. But my hands kept going forward. The car's interior lights flickered. The dashboard dimmed. Even my breath seemed too loud. "Where exactly do you want me to stop?" I asked. "Near the old section," he said. "Before the wall." "There's a wall?" I asked. "Not for you," he replied. The gravel road curved deeper into the cemetery. Headstones changed older, rougher, some leaning. Names worn away. The fog made everything look flat, like paper. Then I saw it. A stone wall at the back of the cemetery, half collapsed, covered in ivy. There was a narrow gap in it, like a doorway. I slowed. "Here," he said. I stopped the car. The engine idled. The headlights poured into the fog and vanished. I waited for him to open the door. I waited for the click of the handle, the creak of hinges. Nothing. In the mirror, his face was still. His mouth was closed. His hands were still on his knees. "Sir?" I said, my voice tight. "We're here." He looked at me. For the first time, he blinked. Once. Slow. Then he said, "Not yet." The temperature in the car dropped. My breath turned white. "I'm not doing this," I said. I reached for the gear shift. My hand froze. Not because I chose to stop. Because my fingers wouldn't move, the gear shift felt like it was buried in ice. In the mirror, the man's smile widened slightly. "You can leave," he said. "After you finish." "Finish what?" I whispered. He turned his head and looked out the window toward the gap in the wall. "Your part," he said. A faint sound came from outside like someone walking on gravel. Slow steps, coming closer from behind the car. I stared at the mirror, trying to see through the fog behind me. A shape formed. Tall. Too tall. It moved in and out of the headlights like it wasn't fully there, like fog wearing the idea of a body. My chest tightened until it hurt. The man in my back seat spoke softly, almost kindly. "Don't turn around," he said. "You'll remember more than you can carry." The steps stopped, right behind the trunk. Then something tapped the rear window, not a knock. A single, careful tap, like a finger testing glass. My breath stuttered. The app on my phone suddenly lit up. A notification appeared. Trip update. The blank passenger name field filled with a single symbol, a dash. Under it, the message read, "Rider confirmed." My hands started to shake. "This isn't real." The man behind me answered as if he'd heard me say it 100 times. "It's real enough," he said. "That's the rule." Another tap on the rear window. Then a longer sound, like nails sliding down glass slow, patient. I squeezed my eyes shut for a second. When I opened them, The rearview mirror showed the back seat clearly. It was empty. The man was gone. I jerked my head around anyway. No one. Just the empty seat, the dark fabric, the faint smell of rain and metal. My stomach turned. I reached for the door locks. I pressed the button. Nothing happened. I pressed again. No click. No movement. The tap came again, but this time it wasn't on the rear window. It was on my driver's side window, right next to my ear. Tap. Tap. I stared straight ahead, afraid to move. A voice spoke from outside, inches from the glass. Not loud, not angry, patient. "And the ride," it said. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. The voice continued, soft and precise, like it was reading instructions. "Confirm the passenger," it said. "Then you can go." I forced my eyes down to the phone. The app showed one big button, confirm pickup, but we were already at the cemetery. The trip had been running, at least. It had felt like it. I didn't understand, but I understood enough. This was the kind of trap that didn't care if it made sense. I tapped confirm pickup. The screen flashed. A new button appeared, complete trip. Before I could touch it, my son's voice came through the speakers, clear as if he was sitting in the passenger seat. "Dad?" My blood went cold. My son was at home, in bed. "Dad?" The voice repeated. "Are you coming?" My hands shook so hard I could barely hold the phone. The voice outside the window spoke again, calm as ever. "Complete the trip," it said. "Or you'll keep driving." I stared at the complete trip button. Then I tapped it. The app chirped cheerfully, like any normal ride ending. Trip completed. Fare. $0 passenger name. Then another line appeared, smaller. Tip added. Below that, in the same neutral font the app used for everything else. "Thank you for staying." The tapping stopped. The fog in front of my headlights seemed to thin. The dashboard lights brightened. The gear shift warmed under my hand. I could move again. I slammed the car into reverse and backed out fast, gravel spraying. I turned and drove back down the cemetery road, not looking at the headstones, not looking at the wall, not looking at the corner of my vision where shapes wanted to form. The gate was still open. I shot through it and onto the main road. Only when the cemetery disappeared behind the trees did I let myself breathe. My phone rebooted. My GPS came back. The dash clock corrected itself. Everything looked normal. Too normal. I drove home in silence, telling myself it was exhaustion, a hallucination, a glitch in the app, anything. When I pulled into my driveway, my hands were still shaking. I went inside, locked the door, and walked to my son's room. He was asleep, breathing softly, safe. I stood there a long time, watching him. Then I noticed something on his windowsill. A small smear of dirt, as if a wet hand had touched the paint. Too high for him, my stomach dropped. Behind me, in the hallway, the floor creaked. Slow, heavy, careful. And my phone buzzed again. 2:17 a.m. new request. Passenger name. Blank. Pickup. My address. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. I didn't touch it. I didn't even breathe. The request stayed there, pulsing softly, like a heartbeat. I hit decline. Nothing happened. I hit decline again. Then I swiped the notification away. Then I shut the phone off completely. For a few seconds the house was quiet. Then my phone turned itself back on. The same request was waiting. My throat went dry. I carried the phone into the kitchen, away from my son's room, and set it face down on the table like it was something that could bite. The floor creaked again in the hallway. Not a random settling sound, a step. I grabbed the biggest knife I had, not because I thought it would help, but because my hands needed something to hold. "Who's there?" I called. No answer. Another step, closer. I backed into the living room and turned on every light. The lamps flickered, then stayed on. Bright, ordinary light filled the room. For a moment, I felt ridiculous. Then I saw the front door. The deadbolt was unlocked. I know it was locked. I had checked it twice when I came in. I walked to it slowly, keeping the knife low. My hand hovered over the handle. I waited for a sound, a breath, anything on the other side. Nothing. I opened the door. The porch was empty. The street was empty. The night looked normal, like it had never heard of cemeteries or fog. Then I looked down. A wet footprint was on the welcome mat, fresh, too large to be mine. I shut the door and locked it, heart hammering. Then I checked my car through the window. It was sitting in the driveway, dark and quiet, but the back seat light was on. That made no sense. I hadn't left any door open. The car should have been locked. I didn't want to go outside. Every part of my body screamed not to. But I needed to know. I needed to see something real. I stepped onto the porch and walked to the car, slow and careful, like I was approaching an animal. The rear passenger door was closed. All doors were closed. Yet the interior light glowed. I tried the handle, locked. I fumbled my keys and hit unlock. The car clicked. The interior light brightened. And the moment it did, my phone buzzed again in my pocket, even though I'd turned it off. 2:17 a.m. New request. Pickup. My address. I looked into the back seat through the glass. A man was sitting there, centered, hands on his knees. Same clean jacket, same calm stare. He smiled at me like we'd never separated. Then the phone displayed one more line under the request. Driver nearby. I didn't open the door. I couldn't, because I finally understood what "thank you for staying" meant. It wasn't a tip. It was a warning, and the ride was not over. I didn't open the car door. I stood there in my driveway, staring through the glass at the man in the back seat, while my phone vibrated again in my pocket. I didn't need to look at the screen to know what it said. The same request, the same time, the same blank name, 2:17 a.m. The man inside the car didn't move. He didn't knock. He didn't wave. He just sat there, hands on his knees, patient as stone. I slowly stepped back from the car. The interior light stayed on. I went back inside the house and locked the door behind me, my hands shaking so badly I dropped the keys twice. I leaned my back against the door and slid down to the floor, breathing hard, trying to convince myself that I was awake, that this was real, or that it wasn't. My phone buzzed again. Then again. I turned it face down on the kitchen table, like before. The screen lit up anyway, glowing through the glass, vibrating softly, insistently. I didn't answer. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No footsteps. No creaking floor. No voice. I stood up slowly and walked through the rooms, turning on lights, checking corners, opening closets. Everything looked normal, empty. When I finally checked the front window again, the car was dark. The backseat light was off. The car looked exactly the way it should, empty. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, the request history on my phone showed nothing unusual. No trip to the cemetery, no blank passenger. Just the normal list of rides from the night before, ending hours earlier than I remembered. The money from the ride wasn't there, but neither was the car wash fee I paid earlier. Small things, inconsistent things. I told myself it was a dream, exhaustion, stress, my mind trying to make sense of a long shift and too little sleep. I didn't drive that night, or the next. I avoided my car. Took the bus, walked, made excuses. Anything to keep distance between myself and the driver's seat. For a while, it worked. No requests. No buzzing at 2:17. No footsteps. Then, on the fourth night, I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand. 2:17 a.m. New request. Pickup location. Current location. I didn't touch it. The request stayed. I turned the phone off completely. The vibration continued, not from the phone, from the nightstand, from the floor, from inside the walls. I sat up, heart racing, and listened. The sound wasn't electronic anymore. It was rhythmic, like an engine idling. Outside, I looked out the bedroom window. My car was running. Headlights on, parked perfectly at the curb. I hadn't moved it. I stood there for a long time, staring at it, until the headlights flicked off by themselves. The engine stopped. Silence returned. In the morning, my neighbors swore they hadn't seen or heard anything. I stopped arguing with reality after that. I stopped driving entirely. I sold the car. Cheap. Didn't care. Watched someone else drive it away and felt lighter than I had in weeks. For a short time, things were normal. No requests. No voices. No footsteps. I started to believe that whatever had happened was tied to the car. That was my mistake. The first time it came without the app, I was at work. I work nights now, warehouse. Quiet, predictable. At 2:17 a.m., the overhead lights flickered. Just once. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, heavy, careful. I didn't turn around. I already knew. A familiar voice spoke behind me, calm and polite. "You're late." I closed my eyes. "I'm not driving anymore," I said. "I know," he replied. "You stayed," I swallowed. "What do you want?" There was a pause. The same kind of pause my son used when he listened. "I want you to finish the ride," the man said. "I did," I said. "You said it was over." He chuckled softly. "No," he said. "You ended the trip." The footsteps stopped close behind me. "So what now?" I asked. Now the voice was closer. Too close. "Now you understand the route," he said. The lights above us dimmed. I felt that familiar pressure in the air, like the world was leaning inward. I quit that job the next day, moved apartments, changed my number. It didn't matter. At 2:17 a.m. something always reminded me. A vibration from a phone that wasn't there. A screen lighting up across the room. A shadow sitting patiently where no shadow should be. Weeks later, I woke up sitting in the driver's seat of a car I didn't own. Hands on the wheel. Engine running. The app was open. Passenger already inside. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. Because I finally understood. It didn't need the car. The car was just the first place I learned to listen. The man in the back seat leaned forward slightly, just like before. "Same destination," he said. I nodded. The road appeared ahead of us, familiar and wrong at the same time. As I drove, I realized something worse than fear. I wasn't being punished. I was being trained. Every ride taught me the same thing. How to follow the route. How to ignore the questions. How to keep driving. Sometimes I'm the driver. Sometimes I'm the passenger. But every night at 2:17, the request comes, and someone always accepts. Because the ride doesn't end when you arrive. It ends when there's no one left to drive. And that hasn't happened yet.